Hi, everybody. Welcome to ET Live at Home. I'm Denny Directo. Melicia Johnson is here again with us. And, you know, Mel, typically with ET Live at Home, we usually start with a vibe check. And I haven't done that this week for obvious reasons, right? Because let's be honest, the vibe is awful, you know, and rightfully so. But I did want to spend just a quick minute to tell everyone that, like, you know, everyone who's taking all of this in and consuming it, it can be a lot, especially for those who are actually protesting. You know, it can be overwhelming and very, very stressful and taxing. And I just want everyone to take a moment to unclench your jaw, breathe, relax your shoulders, because I think, you know, your well-being and your health is also very important. We need your strength. Everyone needs your strength right now. Okay. So take a moment to just breathe. That's right.
Breathing is very important.
Because I don't know about you. I woke up tense, okay? My shoulders, my neck. And I was among the many people in Los Angeles in particular who participated in the protests in Hollywood, as so many people across the nation. I mean, I think it's being reported that there has been some rally, protest, or demonstration in at least all 50 states in America, of course, following the death of George Floyd. And because of that, we've obviously seen some harrowing videos and some images. And there have been a lot of viral moments just from the protests and demonstrations that happened yesterday. But probably the most impactful clip that we've seen is actually George Floyd's 6-year-old daughter, Gianna, who shared this sentiment about everything that's going on right now.
Daddy changed the world.
Daddy changed the world.
I mean, it doesn't get more powerful than that, seeing his daughter say that her daddy has changed the world.
You know, that video gives me chills watching it, because George has changed the world, you know, and in more ways than one, in multiple ways. He's actually changing the world on a government level as well. You know, Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, actually announced on Twitter yesterday that the state is launching a civil rights investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department, meaning that they will investigate the department's policies, procedures, and practices over the past 10 years. Wow. And that is huge. That's basically the state saying, we're on your side, we hear you. Because if you've been hearing the news and doing some research, Minneapolis has dealt with police brutality and Blacks dying at the hands of police officers for a while now. So this is an issue that, you know, has been going on for some time. So there's definitely some change happening. I got really emotional watching her mother, Roxy Washington, on GMA this morning. They did the press conference yesterday, and this morning they were on GMA, and she was just saying how heartbroken she is for her daughter, and how her daughter doesn't know how her dad died. She just knows that he couldn't breathe. She's just hearing what everyone else is saying around her. And that just breaks my heart, because it's not unusual, unfortunately, for African-American kids to grow up without a father. And we're seeing it once again. You know, they either lose a father to jail, or, you know, the father dies, or, you know, it's just different cases. But to see that little girl, she still has so much hope in her eyes. Yeah. And just a bright spirit. So to see that was really emotional for me.
I agree. I actually got emotional watching them address the press yesterday too, before they even appeared on GMA. And because, you know, I think sometimes people forget that not only did a Black man lose his life, but a daughter lost her father, you know, and there's going to be so many experiences that George Floyd is going to miss out on. And when you think about it, you can't help but get emotional, you know. And I think about this quote that Oprah actually shared when she responded to everything that's going on. And of course, George Floyd, she said that, you know, if a soul is measured by the sphere of influence, then George Floyd had a mighty soul. And we're seeing that in this uproar, and people taking to the streets and you know, voting out the elected officials who have supported, you know, police brutality. We've seen it across the country. And so I'm hoping that George Floyd's death won't be in vain.
It won't be. It's not in vain now. Yeah.
No, exactly. But it's also hard to imagine how many times we've gone through this, though. So I hope this is it. You know, now's the time to actually enact some change.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Among the other moments from protests in the country, there was one clip that has reached like 15 million views, and that's Keke Palmer. She urged in this emotional plea during the LA protests for the National Guard to walk and protest with them. Let's take a look.
You have people in here that need your help. This is when you and y'all stand together with the community, with society, to stop the governmental oppression. Period. We need you. So then march with us. March beside us. You get your people. Y'all march beside us. March beside us. March beside us. Let the revolution be televised. March beside us and show us that you're here for us.
This is amazing. I literally encourage everyone to watch the entire clip because she really was pleading with them. And while they didn't end up walking, they did get them to kneel, which you can hear Keke say, that's not enough, which I think I agree with her there. But the fact that she was engaging with them the way she was, face to face, and they were listening. They were listening. Her. Yeah. What did you think of it?
In that moment, I saw the people behind those uniforms, especially the guy in the front. And that's what Keke said. She also spoke on GMA this morning. She said that she wanted to see past the uniforms. She wanted to know, what side of history are you all going to be on? And you could see the conflict going on in that National Guard spirit, wanting to say, I got the vibe that he wanted to say, I do support you. I'm here, but he, of course, made an oath to this country. He has to follow certain rules. But Keke just begging him, essentially. You could hear her voice cracking. Come on, make this change. And I think that this is a really good example of the difference between an ally and an accomplice. We spoke about this yesterday, how an ally will say, I'm here with you, I stand with you, I hear you, but an accomplice will go that extra mile. And in this case, would march.
Yeah, it's a shame that he didn't, mainly because in that clip, he said he was there to protect buildings. And that's something that, did not sit well with me, and it didn't sit well with Keke when she was on GMA today, kind of recounting her experience. In that moment, she was saying that, buildings can be rebuilt, but once a life is taken, it's gone. And I think that's what is really important for people to remember. It's not about the looting. It's not about the rioting. Like, those buildings will be rebuilt, they will come back to life. Unfortunately, George won't, and I think that's important to take away from there. And, that's just one example of people doing their part. And, we talk about this national influence and how everyone in the U.S. is rising up, but it's starting to happen around the world too. We're seeing so many more protests pop up. Even just today, London also held a Black Lives Matter protest, and that's where we found Star Wars star and actor John Boyega. He actually emotionally addressed protesters there and admitted that he doesn't know if he's going to have a career after this, but he doesn't care, because now is the time to actually make a difference. And it was rousing and it was amazing.
And he was crying. He had moments where he couldn't even speak. And he made it a point to note that he remembers the first time when he realized he was Black. And he called on everybody that was Black out there to ask, do you remember the first time that you realized you were Black? So he doesn't care. He's doing what it takes to actually implement change and using his voice. I commend him because it does take courage. It's not easy, but if you don't stand for something,
you stand for nothing.
You stand for nothing.
Yeah.
And these are, regardless of your job, regardless of you being a Hollywood celebrity or a star, you are a Black man. You are under that, you're a human being. Human being comes first, right? And that kind of talks to the National Guard situation. Human being comes first before these occupations. And until we realize that, we're going to keep coming into these issues.
Right. And you don't have to be a celebrity like John or Keke to participate, to step up, to speak out. But obviously, they're historically speaking, a lot of actors and a lot of people in Hollywood, they've been too fearful to say anything for the risk of their careers, and for some, the risk of their safety. The Real Housewives of Atlanta star Porsha Williams, she took to the streets in Atlanta to join the protest, and she actually shared with ET her experience of actually getting tear gassed by police there in Atlanta. Here she is talking to ET about why it was important for her to join those protests.
It awoke something in me that I knew was there. I have always had a heart for the people. It's in my blood. My grandfather, Reverend Hosea Williams, and my father raised us in that way to have a heart for the people, charitable. I've marched with my grandfather in the past, but it ignited what was in me to want to fight for real change.
You know what? I'm so proud of Porsha. Because there's a lot of people online saying that she's just out there for clout or fame. But what they failed to realize, as she said, her grandfather, Hosea Williams, was a prominent, iconic figure in the civil rights movement here in Atlanta. He was a part of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s circle. So she's a part of his legacy. I think she feels a duty to be out there. I mean, we all should feel a duty to do something. Yeah. So for her actually getting out there, I'm proud to see it, and I commend her for that.
You know, it's I said earlier, I also decided to join the protests in Hollywood too. And I think it's just been, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I feel like it's a result of the education that I'm having this week, right? All these conversations we're having, because in my mind, because I am healthy and able-bodied, there is no other choice but to step out of my house and go do that, you know? And it felt good. It felt good to be there. And I got to say, from my experience, it was so peaceful. There were so many people on the streets. Things took a bit of a turn towards the end of my experience there when police got really aggressive. I mean, literally, you saw these SUVs filled with the police department and riot gears just flying in, seemingly out of nowhere and for no reason. Yeah. Firing off like fire cannons. Some people claim there was rubber bullets being shot, and it just got so aggressive out of nowhere. And it's heartbreaking. You know what I mean? It's heartbreaking. And the thing that I am hopeful about is that that's not going to stop people from protesting. I think yesterday was day eight, night 8 of people protesting, and it's for a reason. You know, young people are out there to support an important cause, and people are fed up, you know?
Fed up. And I mean, for someone like, for instance, in my case, hearing you talk about it, I do have a sense of, to be honest, I have a sense of guilt because I have not been out there. And I have reasons. I mean, I'm with my parents right now, and they are over the age of 60, you know, when it comes to COVID. There's a lot of things that play. Some would say that shouldn't matter, but to me, I love my parents, you know, and I'm going to protest and speak out in my own way. But to be on the ground is something different. When I marched for Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown in the past, it's something different about being in that energy with people, that where it really hits you. It becomes so real. And then you see all the diversity, you see all the people that are wanting change. It just lights a fire in you. So I am craving that right now. I'm a bit jealous of you, honestly.
Well, I'm glad you said that though, because I mean, that's just one way to activate. You know what I'm saying? And I want to read this tweet, because when you were talking about that, feeling the guilt, that's not the point. There's other ways to resist. And I want to read this tweet because it's so true. And I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't want people feeling guilty about that, you know? Right. I was one of them, you know? And I have been feeling helpless, but, resistance is not a one-lane highway. Maybe your lane is protesting. Maybe your lane is organizing. Maybe your lane is counseling. Maybe your lane is art activism. Maybe your lane is surviving the day. Do not feel guilty for not occupying every lane. We need all of them.
Look, I think Lizzo tweeted that, and I've been, saying the same exact thing because I know there's people out there that feel like me. So I totally get that, and I totally understand that. But I just know from my previous experience, there's a feeling that you get when you're out there.
And I felt it.
Yeah, you can't get really from anywhere else.
I felt it. And, on that note, there are other ways to protest, right? And let's highlight a couple of these right now because, I'm not going to lie. I don't think we're going to be seeing Jay-Z and Beyonce out in the streets protesting, okay? Right. I mean, it's the same reason why you wouldn't see Barack and Michelle Obama right now out there, you know? But they're doing their part. Jay-Z actually took out full-page ads in U.S. newspapers across the U.S. honoring George Floyd. And that's, one way And he's
huge
also
way.
a huge way. I mean, obviously he said he's also contacted the Minnesota governor. Like, he's trying to do his part, but this is a visual way, you know, of showing his activism and throwing his support too, which I thought was incredible. And I hope we see some digital ads of that too.
Yeah, it is incredible. George Floyd's attorney actually signed the ad, as well as parents of Black men who have been killed by police, which is so powerful. The quote that is on the ad is a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1965 address in Selma, Alabama. And I'm just going to mention a part of the quote, which is a powerful part. He says, quote, "A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right." Kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. If you don't stand up for something, you stand for something, right? The letter was printed in newspapers such as the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune, and others. So this is a huge way to put this in front of people's faces. If you're trying to ignore it and you buy the newspaper, right there, you can't miss this.
Absolutely. Another way that people are kind of doing their part, even if it is behind their screens, but I feel like this made such a huge impact and it's so important. I don't know if you saw this, but K-pop fans who historically have been dragged because they just go so hard for their fandoms, and they have these things called fan cams, where they flood people's timelines with their favorite K-pop artists. Well, now they're using it for a good cause. Obviously, all of us have been doing our part, and you saw a lot of people participating in Blackout Tuesday yesterday, where they shared black screens, right, or images on their Instagram. Well, you know, of course, there was also the hashtag White Lives Matter that started trending, which is, I mean, I feel like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, I actually have no words for that, but K-pop fans actually started flooding that hashtag with photos to drown out those racist posts. So when you click on the hashtag, you could not see a white box. It was literally filled with all of these K-pop artists, all these fans, just literally trying to distract and take that power back. They're like, no, that's not right. They literally were like, you know what? Not on my watch.
What leader of this fandom said, this is what we're going to do? That's what I wanted to know. Whose bright idea was this?
I don't know, but I appreciate it. I was like so proud of my K-pop stans in that moment. This comes after K-pop fans actually also spammed Dallas Police's Snitch app with fan cams and memes to support protesters, because the police in Dallas were asking for people to submit videos and images of looters and protesters. And so they started flooding that app as well, to the point where it actually crashed. So,
wow.
I mean, yeah.
K-pop fans are gangster. They know what to do, when to do it, how to do it.
That part.
They don't care. You know, some people weren't here for it when they flooded the whole White Lives Matter hashtag. They kind of missed the message, but I think their hearts were in the right place. And for a period of time, what they were intending to do, which was to overshadow the racist messages, it worked.
Absolutely works. Absolutely. Because we don't have time for that. You know what I'm saying? And that's
not at all.
Like, nope.
Not on our watch.
Exactly right. So I feel like, you know, I'm hoping this is a turning point in this country when it comes to racism, social justice. And I feel like we are starting to see a bit of a ripple effect, certainly in Hollywood. You know, it kind of reminds me of the Me Too movement, you know, strength in numbers, where people started having the courage and bravery to share their stories and their experiences, in this instance with, you know, prejudice, with racism. And just as recent as Vanessa Morgan, she's in Riverdale, she tweeted that she felt like she's fed up, that she's tired, and she spoke out about being used as a sidekick. She felt like she's being used as a sidekick to the white characters of Riverdale. She went as far as to claim that you know, these shows and these networks don't mind using her image for diversity in the promo and the press materials, but then give her like 2 lines of dialogue in the actual show and won't use her. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think she's totally right. She also mentioned that the media is so powerful. That's why she felt the need to say something. Yeah. I mean, the media in a lot of cases determines our perception. When you walk out the door, you know, you have certain fears or certain beliefs because of what you saw on TV. When you meet somebody, first time you meet a Black person, you may have your ideas about them based off of what you've seen on TV. So I think she hit the nail right on the head. She was really brave for coming out and saying this. I'm telling you, people are at a point where they don't care about not having a job. They don't care about what Hollywood thinks about them anymore. She also let it be known that this has nothing to do with her castmates, her friends.
Mm-hmm.
She says they're not the ones making the decisions, and they're actually standing with her. That she knows that they will support her in this case. So I think it was really brave of her.
For sure. And ET has reached out to Riverdale reps for comment. But this comes after another TV star actually spoke out about her own experiences. I'm talking about Glee star Samantha Marie Ware. She fired back against Lea Michele, who shared a Black Lives Matter post. And she called her out for, quote, making her experience on set during Glee a living hell.
Yeah.
This really prompted other people who worked on the show to also share their bad experiences with Lea. Today, Lea apologized for those accusations. Quote, whether it was my privileged position and perspective that caused me to be perceived as insensitive or inappropriate at times, or whether it was just my immaturity and me just being unnecessarily difficult, I apologize for my behavior and for any pain which I have caused. It made me think about something you actually said yesterday, Melicia, where we have to give people space to learn to grow. And when they apologize, we have to accept that as truth. But I'm curious to hear, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this apology, because I felt like it didn't start like she was accepting responsibility.
Okay.
It did change towards the end for me, but it took a minute to get there.
Yeah. I think it's tough for anybody to swallow a pill that they've done wrong or caused harm or, hurt to someone. I will say this, the accusations that were written about Lea are pretty gut-wrenching. Samantha, in her tweet, she said that, quote, I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would S-word in my wig.
I mean,
that's deep. And she said it even got to a point where she was questioning whether she wanted this career in Hollywood based off of her experience with Lea. That being said, as you said, other people that were in the cast or part of the cast in the past also retweeted things or said their spill about their experiences with Lea. So this is a situation to where you're not just ignorant about it. You're ignorant about it, and you're actually taking action against people. If this is all true, But I will say this: I think an apology should be accepted, but what's going to be the main part in this, the main factor in this situation, is Leah's actions moving forward.
Absolutely.
You can apologize all day long. I mean, there's a lot of white people out there right now, just to be frank, that feel like they have to say something, because if they don't, they're looked at as a racist. So it's not what you say. You can apologize all day long. You can say that you stand with us all day long, but we're going to have to see your actions moving forward. Because based off of these accusations, this is a pattern for you. This is just something you do that obviously needs to be changed.
But I think it also speaks volumes that in this cultural moment, these young Black actors aren't going to sit quietly. They're like, you know what?
I mean,
you know what? I need people to know this.
Yes, there's power in numbers. And you mentioned that. You compared it to the Me Too movement. I spoke to my friend the other day. We had a conversation. He's a Black male. And he just said flat out, I've never felt more seen before. I've never felt like what I had to say matters so much. And I posted on Instagram the other day that even having these conversations on here for this past week, it's a heavy load on your shoulder. It's an honor, but at the same time, everybody's listening. Yep. They're wanting to hear what you have to say, and you have to be on point, and you have to speak your truth while you have their ears. So while we have ears listening, we want to make sure we say what we want to say. We want to make sure we speak our truth, because as we've seen in the past, we can have ears for the moment, but as time goes on, we tend to lose them. So hopefully that's not the case in this situation.
I hope so too. And I think that's why it's been so important for us here to use the platform to amplify Black voices and the cause, but also to keep that conversation going long after the protests are over. In fact, you have a very special interview coming up after the break with spiritual writer and wellness educator, Layla Delia. She's going to speak on how we can focus the outrage into change long after the protests are over. But first, we're going to leave you guys with this clip of Lea Michele's former Glee co-star, who, by the way, she did respond to those claims and accusations too with a gif of herself sipping tea. Beyonce, but she also participated in the LA protests yesterday. Here's a clip of her singing Beyonce's Freedom during those protests.